The one person waiting disappeared.
Oh no.
Nobody. There's nobody. Hmm.
Just the picture of Provo City Hall with it being a roast.
Yeah. I also, while we guess wait around, wait until there's at least a person.
I mean, there might not be. We should probably. Hey, look, at least a person.
Well, there was. I don't know.
All right.
I don't know how fast this updates.
Yeah. Well, shall we?
Well, it looks like there might be people. Oh, yep. All right. So we have people. All right. Well, welcome, I guess. We have at least one person here. So I guess we can get started. But I guess first thing, I don't know how to start this. This is like actually like a actual thing. So we're gonna do an architecture roast today. And I think we'll probably do more of them. But this is the first one.
Yeah, so this is what started this. This is where the idea started, in that sometimes when Philip and I were casually chatting, we would complain about ugly architecture. And then, I mean, that's been kind of the case for years, with just a handful of interesting discussions.
That it's like one of my favorite topics of discussion actually.
And then, not too long ago, I was like, I just thought, well, maybe we should just chat about this in some sort of actual format. Before we jump into that, though, I have a show and tell, and maybe just we can have the tiny introductory segment, which by which I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know, you doing anything interesting art wise?
Um I'm still working on postcard stuff and pretty much that's it right now. Trying to just think through the process cuz I'm trying a new process and it's kind of slow. So I don't have the setup right now for show and tell actually, but yeah, it's tiny. Casey's trying to read the chat.
I know.
It's like a mile away.
Yeah, no, it's like on the other side of the room for me. I'm not going to read the chat. It's just super tempting because I want to know. I want to know what's going on. But also last time it was very distracting.
Yeah.
In a fun way, but I like couldn't maintain like a train of thought.
Yeah. So sorry, we might like sort of ignore you guys most of the time.
Who is
And
that? Is that my
that that,
fan?
that is
Is that my
your
fan?
number one fan.
My fan. I mean, I only have one fan. Actually, I probably have two. Both their names are Madeline.
I could be a lot. I'm probably just not close enough to the microphone. Also, I talk kind of quiet. All right.
Wait, who is this? Oh my gosh, I can't think straight. Chat's too fun. Yes, you could use all caps, although it might hurt my feelings.
Everybody will just be angry.
Yeah. All right. So as far as show and tell, we don't have. You say you don't have the show
Yeah.
and tell set up. That's fine.
Um,
I can just talk about it for a hot second. It's just an interesting.
go for it.
Yeah. No, if anyone cares, they can look up images online. Uh,
Your
it's like
I think position the microphone more like below.
more below.
Yeah, I think it's peeking out.
Okay.
Just doing some minor technical stuff on the job.
Yeah, I had the
So
microphone like basically
yeah, you
pointed
just
up my nose.
try not have that get red.
Okay, don't get red.
All right.
Don't. Okay, groovy. Yeah, so here's my. As long as this is about aesthetics, and this is kind of like a thing of interest. So, as I was working in the lab late one night this last weekend, uh, I ran across a YouTube video which was um, Bill Watterson, who is the creator of Calvin and Hobbes,
Yep.
uh, put out a new book after 30 years. And this video was he and the illustrator who he collaborated with, and they were discussing their process. And I guess this illustrator is also fairly famous. So, the book itself is pretty interesting and good, but what's really, really interesting is this, like, creative ordeal they put themselves through. And you can just go watch the video, but I'll, like, paraphrase it, which is so they wanted it to be truly collaborative. Obviously, there's lots of things that work really well that are very collaborative, but you always kind of need to have a boss if that's like an animation studio.
Yeah.
Um,
You have some kind of producer or director.
yeah, some usually a vision.
Yep.
Um, and Bill Watterson was saying in this video. This is also from another thing about this video was it was almost like a religious experience because the fact that Bill Watterson uh super duper reclusive and did not like embrace his fame whatsoever and actually like completely hid himself from the public eye makes him sort of like mythical
Yeah.
to I would say it's I would be lying if I said it like didn't have that effect on me and that's not
Yeah.
I'm there's a lot of people like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's there are people who have made movies about trying to find Bill Watterson. And there's like books about trying to find Bill Watterson. Like it's weird. So, um and again, he didn't show his face in this. It was just him talking. But so they wanted it to be truly collaborative, meaning they both had complete veto power
Yeah.
and basically they both had a pretty clear idea of what they wanted it to be, but not like how like they said they had an idea of how they wanted the feel to be. So this took them 10 years. And if you look, so this book is called The Mysteries by Bill Watterson and John Cash.
All
And
right.
it's pretty great, but if you look at it like it's not like 10 years of work. It's
It's
like it's
not
about
very big.
yeah, it's not very big and it's a handful of illustrations because it's not like it was technically difficult and that took them 10 years. It's that they basically like couldn't figure out how like they were just vetoing each other's ideas for like a decade until they finally um figured out what they like settled on a style.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting because they said that they both kept themselves pretty uh like they didn't take it personally. And they had a really good attitude about it, but they just like basically butt their head against the wall for like a decade trying to do this. So I don't know. In terms of like, I mean, I think it interests us making stuff like and people who make stuff that's like a real artistic effort. It's just that's a really interesting way to go about it.
Yeah.
You and I have collaborated, collaborated, collaborated a number of times, and it's been pretty chill. It is interesting. It's almost like uh, for me, it's almost like if you have, it's easy when the other person like presents an idea that is easy to go along with. It's like a great
Yeah.
idea, but when you disagree, for me, it was almost like unless I really disagree, like strongly, which was pretty rare,
Yeah.
you're just kind of like, this idea is like pretty good, and I'll like go with it.
Yeah. No, I
Like,
understand how that, yeah.
and that kind of felt like the collaboration in the like, unless there was like really a reason.
Yeah. No, it's like that's a big it's one of the tricky things about it,
Sure, I should
for
like let you
sure.
look at this.
Yeah. Well, it's like claymation.
Oh yeah, so it's like a mixed medium thing. Um, so the illustrator made the made these carved characters. Bill Watterson does essentially the background art, and it's photographed with lighting. Like it's
Okay.
and the book itself is like a something of like a grown-up parable. And by grown
Mhm.
up I mean like it's something of like a
Mhm.
parable about modern life and like uh losing a respect for like the mysteries of the universe, I guess. I don't know. It's pretty good. It's not too heavy-handed. Uh Sometimes in Calvin Hobbes, Bill Watterson was a teeny bit heavy-handed. So
Mhm.
it's not like out of character to be like a little heavy-handed, but it's not too bad.
Hmm. Interesting. I like this. Link the video. Yes. There you go.
So yeah,
Um.
I
Oh,
don't know. I'm almost more like intrigued
the
by
process
the
of it.
process. I mean, like I said, I like the book. I like the book quite a bit,
Mhm.
but yeah, it's the process that I mean, I guess these two guys are just
Hmm.
Mr. Calvin and Hobbes is probably set for life. This other guy sounds really, really, really successful too. They probably don't. They're like, well, we can just like take 10 years to like
Yeah. I mean, it's like,
make this
what
thing
else?
to our artistic to uh till we both think it's like exactly what we want.
Yeah. Yeah. What has the other guy done?
He does.
He has a lot
He's a
of
famous
caricature.
caricaturist.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess the other thing is interesting is they both really wanted to push themselves because I guess the caricaturist was saying in the video, again, I'm just paraphrasing what they say better in the video, but
Mhm.
um he was saying that he's a very technical artist. Like he takes, these faces and he's bending and stretching them, but he's being very like technical about it. And he
Yeah.
he he never really like character designed. and that wasn't like something comfortable for him.
Uh-huh.
So he was like pushing himself way out of his comfort zone. And
Hmm.
then yeah, Bill Watterson, who's a cartoonist, and he's like doing paintings or whatever. They were just pushing themselves like out of their comfort zones.
Yeah, doing something very different. Neat.
So yeah, okay, a little show and tell. Let's roast a building.
All right.
If I can, so here's the ASMR tea part. I've made some tea. I'm trying to pour it, but the glass is so hot. I have a little thing.
Well, it's not too bad. Or do you wanna?
Yeah.
I don't think it's too bad.
Ah, I got it.
But I also work in
Ooh, I touched the pot though.
in a kitchen full of hot metal, so I'm
So
used to
you're
it. I,
you're the chef who's like, you're like, oh yeah, I flip the burgers like with my hand. But yeah, let's roast a building.
all right. Uh, all right. Where to start? I guess the first thing I'd say is the Provo City Hall is one of my least favorite buildings of all time. It's pretty hideous, and it's the first thing you see. Oh, they're good. Spilling
Yeah.
tea.
Okay.
Uh, but yeah, it's just so like haphazard. And the more I've thought about it, just looking at it, but also considering like like private discussions about it, it like gets so much worse. Like, and when I went to go take pictures of it, I was like had more and more thoughts about it. So this is basic. Hold on, let me see. I don't remember which order these pictures are in. So this is basically what you see when you like come into Provo. It's a huge building that if you didn't know what it was, like is your first time coming to Provo, you can't even tell what it is. Like it doesn't look like anything. It could be the headquarters of a business, it could be a city hall, it could be a museum, it could be who knows what, right? It's just nothing. It's a nothing building. But I think Casey pointed this out one time we were talking about it. It's like these this like pattern, these like small rectangular patterns of like that white part. It looks like it looks like stacks of paper. Just stacks and stacks of paper.
So it's appropriate, right? They're like,
Yeah.
see this. It's real smart. They're like, this is our bureaucracy building.
Yeah. So in a sense, aesthetically speaking, that's correct. But the thing is
I
you don't when you're designing a building and you want to convey what it is, you want it, especially with something like a, a city hall, it's less about the bureaucracy and the more you probably want to get across the sorts of things that you consider important about your city. But anyway, so yeah, it like not only is it look like stacks of paper, but they're very precarious looking stacks of paper. And when I was going through and I was looking around, let's find one where it's the side detail. Yeah, so these like weird wedge protrusions. I I've been trying to figure out like what the heck that is, why they're doing it. And the more I've thought about like this paper idea, the more I my thought is that it's paper falling down from the collapsing stack of paper. It's like collapsing. So it's like it feels like uneasy and like burdensome, and it just takes up your vision. Also, I this the dark color. This is a good view of it. You can't really. I don't know what I'm doing. This is terrible. But the dark color that like it's like muddy graphite color is a terrible building color. It's like it's like a depressing color. Like nobody looks at that and thinks, "I'm sure glad I'm looking at this color." You know? It's like on a building that like takes up so much of your eye space. It's just like again, oppressive. So much of the building's like oppressive feeling. Especially since the design of it's like an embodiment of just bureaucracy. Which I guess it makes sense for a government building, but it's not what I want to feel when I like come into town.
Yeah, so there's um again, we've talked about this a whole bunch of times, but I'm trying to organize my thoughts. There's a bunch of reasons why um one would want, or I'm yeah, trying to organize what I'm thinking. Um there's a whole bunch of ways to go about talking about this. One is like why would you, why is beauty important? Like, why do you want a building to be beautiful, and especially like a public building? And then why is this super not? I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking. Um, but this goes for a lot of buildings. Basically, this kind of epitomizes a lot of what we've talked about. Uh,
No, there's again, I don't, and this is what's been like bugging me about architecture in particular with regards to this is it's such like a huge endeavor and cost of resources and manpower to build something that I don't to just like be so haphazard with it is kind of crazy to me. Like how many what the heck? What's something was getting Oh, I see. Okay. Um why like how many people looked at plans for this building and said, "Yeah, this is good." Like it had to have been a lot of people. Like not just one person.
yeah.
There were multiple people who looked at this and said, "Wow, that's beautiful." I don't I don't know. And how was it pitched? Like when Provo City went to whoever designed this and got back the design, how did the architect pitch it? Did they pitch it as I designed your city hall as a collapsing stack of paperwork? How about that? Do you like that? And they're like, yeah, that sounds great. I
Yeah.
like I don't understand
I mean, so
why.
we could give it the benefit of the doubt and be like, okay, so what's like the positive way it was?
That's the thing I'm wondering because I obviously they didn't pitch it as like some kind of dystopian nightmare concept, but what was it? And I have no idea. Maybe that's because I just look at it and I'm like, get annoyed and depressed. So there had to have been something that people were sold on with it. But again, I don't know, especially with like a public building like this, I actually have no idea what the process is for how it's even decided what's approved or not. Cuz was it the mayor? I or just the city council?
I mean, by committee for sure. They all
Yeah, it
probably.
had to have been by committee.
So
Anyway, yeah, go
I've
ahead.
yeah, I've thought about this every time we've talked about it, in that I would be very curious to, to hear the architect's point of view, because I feel like they're probably working under some philosophy, right? They're probably working under some,
There's some school of thought
yeah.
that they're following,
And
but what is it? I don't know what it is.
yeah, and I don't know if it's a matter of they think that it's like the design of the building. When I say the design, I mean the design elements in the balance of it's not like horrible. Especially from that front side. Like it has kind of like there's something of a design. Like the
Well,
like the weight. Oh, here's what I think. Like the weight of the elements is okay, kinda. Like they're not
yeah,
like,
well that and I will bring this up now. We've talked about this is in a almost like technical sense is with regards to the elements of design, it works, right? Like it's balanced, you have like the repetition of shapes and you have like the contrasts and like everything technically works, right? Like if you were to think of design as purely like a set of criteria that you meet, it works. Like checklist design, technically it works. The thing is from an aesthetics standpoint and thinking about why you're using the design elements in the way that you are, you start to look at it differently and you're like, well, hold on, why is it this shape? Why are these colors? Why is it balanced this way? And for me, it like feels uncomfortable, even though yeah, it's like, okay, like these shapes
yeah.
work together, but they don't feel right because it's the actual consideration of like what the purpose of the building is and why you're having it designed in a particular way almost like wasn't considered, or it was and we just don't know it what they were thinking.
Yeah, like, well, again, what?
But that's part of with that's kind of why it's important to get it right with architecture, cuz it's not like you can have like a little plaque that says this is what we were thinking about, like when you go to an art museum and they have the little plaque that kind of gives you a little like rundown on the concept sometimes. But yeah, I don't.
So,
Here's it.
yeah, a couple things. There's a so you got the architect, and like I said, that that person's the person I'd be most curious to hear from, and like, because I'm sure that there's something at work, some like, even if it's not like, a profound philosophy, which it might be. Architecture kind of has a history of some like profound philosophies, like
Yeah.
people thinking real hard about it. But yeah, then it goes to, to people who are committees and whoever makes the decisions. And you have to imagine that they might, I don't know, it's hard to imagine. This feels uber snobby. But
That's kind of the point of all this.
yeah, it's
That's
that
what we're doing.
it's
We're
that there's
snobbing.
there's a lot of our culture that like isn't used to seeing beauty, doesn't care to see beauty because it's not something that uh it's not that big of a deal, and that might like not even be on people's radars. Like they might see the cool little architectural drawing because they always look cool. The
Yeah.
little like mock up and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, that looks great."
The little 3D render.
Yeah. With the
Maybe they even did a VR.
yeah, with the tiny people
Yeah.
walking around and you're like, "Wow, it's like there's real tiny people there." This is what the building's going to look like. Those always look cool even for dumb buildings. Um something about architectural drawing is very charming.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it'd be interesting to hear from the architect on something like this. It was very, like, almost certainly was done by some sort of committee because any. Basically, the architect would have been the actual person making decisions. Because the decisions on the part of, like, the city council with regards to this building kind of don't really matter because ultimately it was the architect that decided. And he would have given them whatever he did and they would have said yes or no, but any changes would have been his decision.
Yeah. And
So it's kind of like, okay, what was he thinking? He or she thinking about when they did this. Also, another thing is, it was it designed by somebody even that's been here?
oh, yeah,
That
that's a
that
factor.
that's a I strongly suspect that whoever designed this has maybe not even been in Provo in their life. But I don't know. Maybe they have. I don't know. From my research, I think that it was like a $70 million building or something like that. So it's not a cheap building
Yeah, it might have been a big enough deal
that
that
the architect would have flown out
yeah,
and checked it out.
and we say flown out because one suspects that. I mean,
I
maybe there's some architect from Salt Lake or something. I don't know, but
I could be, but
yeah,
I
you kind
don't
of
know.
doubt it.
I kind of doubt it. From the cursory research I've done into other ugly buildings around here, they're never designed in Utah. They're always designed in like California or like Arizona or something, or maybe like Massachusetts.
Yeah,
Like not here.
which gets into
That gets into a whole nother thing. I want to do more research into that.
yeah, that gets into a vein that I really like. That's of kind of what we've talked about with a lot of this stuff, which I guess you would call it like the the problem of mass media, I suppose. But just how
It's a lot. I think a lot of things fit into it.
yeah, that but yeah, it's like yeah, this was designed according to probably you know, not it's not designed as a building that like belongs to Provo, Utah, and like a culture again because
It
it's
doesn't.
somehow it's hard to find a culture.
Well,
Um,
that's part of. I mean, this. I guess it makes sense to bring up, but sort of the idea that you have when you have people doing something like, say, designing a building like 1,000 miles away, they're either going to design it like what they're familiar with, where they live, or they're going to make something that is just meets like kind of the common denominator, just kind of something that works good enough, I guess, but it doesn't really carry any kind of weight to it. Doesn't actually have any serious consideration for time and place. It's just we need a box to put uh like some city workers in. So we'll do that.
And it's going to be gigantic, and it's going to have on the sides decorations that are for all intents and purpose meaningless, right?
Yeah.
It's like you and I have talked about getting random like knickknacks from I don't like Bed Bath and Beyond or whatever store
At
sells
at home
yeah, whatever store sells knickknacks that you put on your coffee table that don't have any meaning
or
and are
like
like
Michael's.
yeah, they're like vaguely aesthetically pleasing maybe. You're like, "Well, I don't know what is that thing?" It's like a spiral made of sparkles. Like
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about. It's just
Yeah.
um
Well,
and
it's what, what was it? It's what we talked about earlier of it's design elements that technically work, but they're actually devoid of significance.
yeah,
So it's kind of like you're just when you think about it, when you're looking at it, you're like, I don't understand why this exists. It's like at first glance you're like, oh, that's kind of nice, and then you think about it and you're like, I'm not actually looking at anything. This is just a shape, I guess.
yeah. Like it doesn't convey anything. If you go to classical architecture, one uh somebody said something. Amy.
Amy, the cage of fake lemons on top of my sister's piano has entered the chat.
I think the Cage of Fake Lemons is a beautiful art piece. Um, it means so much
There's
about lemons and how lemons are like tiny canaries. Yeah, but so yeah, um if you go to classical architecture, A, it's very readable. Um, it- so the kind of counterpoint to this building is just down the street, and it would be the old Provo Courthouse, which is an old kind of Greek classical architecture building. Um, and with that, so I mean, there again, we were talking about schools of thought. There's schools of thought behind classical architecture, um, which is A, it's not a house. It looks like something that's important, and it's got big old pillars holding up a big old heavy looking roof with all
you
this
have to
decoration.
you have to walk up quite
Yeah,
a few stairs to get to the door.
it's in
Above the doors is the big I always forget what it's
a
called.
frieze.
A big frieze full of stuff that represents what, at the time they would have considered as representative of Provo. So I can't remember what else on there. There's like cows. I think there's a big gear. There's
Yeah,
some pioneers or something. Some wheat. I don't. There's like agriculture and industry things, right?
yeah, and we um a really really interesting conversation is the long kind of is the question of like trying to okay an interesting conversation that's been going on for a long time is people trying to kind of get away from Greek architecture, which is fine and actually understandable. Like for an area, this is kind of what we're talking about, for an area to have develop like its own art. And there have been some pretty cool things that people have made over the years that are kind of attempts to escape, and a lot of like stupid stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of, again, it's uh there's two sides to a lot of things, but our culture is more or less, for the last 100 years, kind of thrown out architecture, or thrown out a lot of stuff with modernism and postmodernism, but thrown out architectural stuff. And some people have made some really cool stuff, but most of all, it's sort of most of it kind of sucks. Most like uh
Like the City Hall.
yeah. And so this almost is like the point. But so if you go to like the 50s and people are like trying to design new buildings, and you get again some things that are pretty cool with that are made of like just glass and steel, because they're all like, oh, we've got these materials
Yeah,
now, and they're
we figured out how to make a glass and steel building.
yeah. And basically how it goes is that there's like a number of top famous architects, and they did really cool neat things, and then everyone imitating them across the country just made terrible looking stuff.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a building like this is kind of like arrives at the end of this, where it almost like doesn't have any.
Well, it's probably because you have like why is my mind blanking on the style? The like what's a like the Chrysler building? What is that called?
Like gothic skyscrapers, is that
Well, no,
where
I mean
they're
it
like,
has elements of that. Gosh
yeah,
dang it, why can't I think of
I'm
it's
trying.
not Art Nouveau, that's French.
Oh, Art Deco.
Art Deco stuff.
Yeah.
Um but you have like that comes into being, you have like international style,
Yeah.
you have brutalist stuff, you got all Bauhaus, all those like different types of things over time, and eventually you just have, I think, architects that are like taking bits and pieces from those and mashing them up. And they're like, well, that's what I learned in architecture school. Look at this.
Yeah.
And another because there's elements of some of that too with the Peg Company's building over by Smith's, which I went inside of the other day, and that was interesting. But that's off topic. I saw something funny. But yeah, there's like elements of things kind of mashed in there, but they don't but they're just almost done just for the sake of it. Not with any kind of real consideration of why in those different styles they did it the way that they did. Right?
Yeah.
It
It
Go ahead.
yeah. I mean, just I strayed really, really far away from my original point, but that was that. Like, so if you have a classical, meaning like a based on Greek architecture and Roman architecture, like a classical building, it's very readable, and like the elements like kind of have like the immediate effect that they should have, and it's sort of obvious.
Yeah.
Whereas you're like, ah, that's imposing or lovely, or that's like a the frieze like represents.
It tells you something about the
Yeah.
building.
So that versus, the dark part of the front of this, where it's like they've got the little geometric bumpity bumpities, that who knows what that's supposed to like convey. It's
It kind of just leaves it up to you, which
I
you end up
guess.
with people like me looking at it, and I'm like, this looks like tumbling sheets of paper from a collapsing stack of paper. Because
Yeah.
what else is it? In my mind, I can't think of anything else at this point.
And even shape-wise, it's so weird. Well, 'cause I was thinking I was kind of going down other I was thinking of like bungalow style houses with uh if you look up that like a California bungalow style, which is a pretty charming kind of American house, and they have like there's a whole bunch of them in Provo. Technically, I think my house is a bungalow, but it doesn't look anything like the cool ones. Um, and they have like they have pillars too, but they're like short, chubby little pillars, and everything in all the shapes of the house are kind of like squat, and it sort of lends itself to like a comfy, cozy feel. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah. No, I see it.
like
Yes.
bungalows are super cozy. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I'm looking at them.
I grew up in a for part of my childhood in a really like pretty bungalow, like American bungalow style. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so it's just but it's like I don't know, the shapes of it and everything, whether or not somebody was thinking real hard about it or sort of like happened naturally, who knows? I don't know like the history
Of
of
bungalow.
bungalows.
Me
Um,
neither.
but I don't know what are the shapes of the Provo City Center.
I don't know.
Like what's the
Also, these windows. I think I think that's the best view I can get. But you see those windows like inset in the paper? They like go back like 2 or 3 feet. So it's like on the inside, you like you can't see that much, and you're like looking at, uh, you can't even see anything. Like, what's the point of those windows? You can't like look down the street. You get like a narrow slit, and they're all like irregular shapes. Like, I don't understand. Like on the inside, it's crazy. I didn't get any pictures on the inside. Um, you can kind of see on this one. But like the staircase on the inside's like a weird, like skewed angle and stuff. It just like feels off. So yeah, I don't. Also, the Casey's like going to the bathroom or something, so I don't want to. I have something I want to say, but I want him here. The least offensive part of the building though is like this, like the side that's just like brick with some windows. It's very boring, but it's not insane. Do I have any more? Yeah. Even on the back, they have some of this crap. Like, I just don't understand. From this side, from the back side, it kind of looks like a hospital. That's what I'm saying. Like, you can't tell what it is unless you already knew. It's like a weird combo building. It's like the city's IT department and police department and uh everything. I don't. It's so weird. Cause yeah, on this side it's like it's just such a weird like mash of stuff. Like why is it brick over here? It's just like brick blocks. And most of the windows are like on this weird like backside. Like the front doesn't have that many windows really. And that's where you'd have, I guess you can see the mountains from back there. I guess. Wouldn't be a very good view. Because, like, the new skin building's, like, in the way. Which is another hideous building. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. This is something I just noticed is most of the windows are like on the weird backside. I don't. It's just so bizarre. Casey's back.
Yeah, I was just sick of it.
He's just. You had to go throw up.
I was like, leave this poor building alone. What has it ever done to you besides like just block the mountain? That's the real crime in Utah is when the more of these buildings
Oh,
go up, the less you can just see the mountains.
Oh, I know. That's like that's a whole nother discussion. We'll get into that some other time.
And this
My
is
whole theory of how buildings should be designed in Utah, or at least like the beginnings of how that should work.
yeah, because instead of the mountain, you get this, which is like the building equivalent of some bad '90s digital art. Like to like look at, like it's it's just like haphazard where they're like,
I just figured out how to use a matrix transform. So I'm gonna make a crazy looking face and apply a crazy shader. Yeah, I wanted to talk. I didn't get a good picture of it, but the stupid. Can I zoom in?
oh yeah,
This.
should we go after
I don't have a way to zoom in. I can move it around.
the fountain? It's okay.
Zoom
Whomever
in.
is listening knows about the fountain.
This fountain's stupid.
Stupid fountain.
Though I do understand. It's part of like. It's like the most by committee thing ever. Why am I getting so many texts all of a sudden?
It's from all your fans.
Okay.
They're like,
So
Philip roast my building
yeah,
next.
this is like one of those things where it I don't know where the idea for having this like weird fountain marquee structure started, but somebody probably suggested it and immediately everybody on the committee was like, that sounds so cool.
Well, they probably have
That
a
I
catalog.
can imagine the meeting.
Yeah, it's a catalog like a roller coaster tycoon um catalog or a roller coaster tycoon tab where you're like things to put in front of your city hall and you get to like pick you're like do you want a giant teddy bear? Do you want a hot dog stand? But like it's like here are your choices of just like do you want like a in reality it's probably more like do you want like a weird sculpture? Do you want like a water feature?
I mean, it was probably a lot cheaper than buying a sculpture, like an actual sculpture. But I don't think that was the reason. I think they just somewhere it got into somebody's head that they wanted to do the water drop fountain thing, and it probably became one of the things on like their list of things they wanted for the building that nobody would question. Like when they're like having meetings about it, and they'd be looking at the different things that they wanted on the building and they're like deciding what to keep and what to remove. Whenever they got to that, everybody's like, "No, we got to keep that. We got to keep the fountain. We got to have that fountain." And it is the worst thing cuz yeah, well, it wasn't running when I took these pictures, but yeah, during the day when it goes, you can't read it.
That's the real problem is that it's
You can't. It's like
absolutely
pointless.
ineffective.
It just makes like annoying sounds, just like erratic splashes. But even at night, it's so ugly. Cause so one day I'm gonna tell a story about this. I was just out on a walk and I decided to just hang out right here. I sat on the little like planter thing behind the fountain because it was just like a really nice evening. The sun was setting, the clouds were really nice, the lighting on Timp was really nice. And I just happened to be walking. I was like, I'm going to take a seat and look at this. And oh my gosh, because it had the lights going and the lights were like attacking my eyes. And they're like flashing and they're like switching between colors constantly. And it's like illuminating everything around there. And it's just like, just really harsh. I don't, what would be another good term for it?
Garish.
Garish is perfect. Yeah, it's like not what you want, especially when it's like, because sunsets here are actually really nice. Like when you have clouds, they look really cool, and the mountains take up the light really nicely. And if you had maybe more windows on parts, like you have this big window right there. If you have mountains lit really well in the evening, you can play that off of the building if you have a lot of windows on it, right? But you have this ugly fountain that like lights up everything in on this corner with like crazy colors. So I and also it's just like a looks like it was made in Minecraft and it has this stupid Provo logo which is also not appealing. I don't know. I just it's not nice and it's never going to go away. There's too many of the people that made the decisions were probably in love with the idea of this thing that it will never leave.
Yeah.
Like I I don't know. One day it's going to stop working and the people that cared about it won't be around and they'll just tear it out. That's what I think will happen. It's they like could have put literally anything else there and it would have been better.
They could have put another Heart of Provo sign.
Yeah, that would have been better.
Sculpture.
They could have put another Provo Strong sculpture there. It would have been
Yeah.
better. That's another thing. We need to do a public art roast too. That'd be
We
good.
need to do
There's a lot. Also, we should do
a segment called the like news segment, Art in Our City.
yeah, or do one go through all of the electrical box art. That'd be a good one. There's a lot of those. And they're all there's
Yeah.
like always a new one too. I like keep noticing new ones. And there's some terrible ones.
So,
Yeah, in like 10 years it'll tear it out because it will stop working.
yeah.
And they're not going to bother to fix it and anybody who cared on the committee, on the city council or whatever, there might be like one or two of those people left, but everybody will be like, yeah,
and
we're not going to bother.
it'll look dated and dumb.
Yeah.
Cuz I think this whole building, it's when you see like a really ugly building from the 60s, that's how this building is going to look. Like
It already looks
yeah, I
that
mean
way.
it looks ugly right now, but it's going to look ugly and like ugly retro in a few years.
Oh, yeah.
Uh to me one of those city buildings where, in 20 years from now, everyone's going to be like, oh gosh, maybe.
They're gonna be like, we need to build a new city hall because we
Yeah.
actually hate this one, even though we just built it 20 years ago. Because the old one was weird, but it wasn't like offensive. Like you didn't look at it and like get uncomfortable. You're just like, that's a interesting design choice, I guess.
Yeah, it
But
was
you could
weird for
tell,
sure.
it was like a government building just because of a number of things about it. It just they had like odd choices.
Yeah.
Like it was on like a raised earthwork and
It,
stuff.
it was like a
But
Japanese fortress.
yeah, but I kind of liked some of those elements about it. It made it stand out. But it was weird.
It was weird.
I wouldn't have designed a city hall like that. But when you have it this to compare to, you're like, man, that would have been. It's
Yeah.
like,
It was more than a box with like strange graphic design shapes.
yeah,
Um Another thing we've talked about that I just remembered, kind of another interesting angle, is so you live in a place and you kind of want. This is one reason this kind of conversation is uh, important. Is you live in a place and you want to be part of it, and you want things to be beautiful there. That's a little hard when you live in a really like disconnected culture, I guess. It's kind of what we've talked about before with Provo, where everyone feels like they're about to move out at any point in time.
yeah,
But then, so that's one part of it. But the other part is like, we're like, how? So people were making decisions making this building, and it's like so far out of our control
yeah.
or anything. Like, I don't know. I mean, and
Because
it's always that way, probably a little bit. Like, even if you were to be in a small little town that cared a lot about things like this, you still might, um,
yeah.
you still might not like have a lot of say.
But I mean, it's something where it's like you essentially have zero say in something like this getting built, even though technically you could have voted for whoever's on the city council that probably decided this. But the thing is they don't nobody campaigns on like, I have really good design aesthetic sense.
Yeah, like I have good taste.
I have good taste. So you have no way of gauging that aspect of like their decision making capability, you know? So you don't actually get a say in whether or not, in particular, like, I mean, yeah, with like public buildings, like government buildings, you don't get a say. Even though in a way you get more of a say in that than with most buildings, but the thing is you still don't. And it makes it feel worse because you're like, theoretically, I should have been able to do something about this. But then you think about it and you're like, actually, there was zero I could have done about this. But yeah, I don't. Yeah, I. What do you do about ugly buildings?
Yeah,
That's like the vexing thing for me. It's like it's just there now. Because once it's up there, you can't be like, oh well, let's just redo that. Like it's not even like feasible in any way to be like, let's just like undo a building. At least like if you put up like an ugly sculpture, you could like take down the sculpture and put something else there. But the building you can't. It's just there. And it's like, well, we spent millions of dollars on this. We can't just like not use it. So we're just gonna use it for the next like 40 years or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'll just have to suffer for decades while this like monstrosity just sits at the entrance of the city. There's nothing you can do about it. Egg them. That is something you can do.
Yeah, they and then Provo City Hall suffered from serial eggings.
Yeah, what would happen if there's just like this constantly was getting egged?
Yeah, so it
Just
comes out.
too many people were egging it somehow.
Yeah, so it's not like, I don't know, it's not a cultural talking point at all. Like, and especially in a place that is ever shifting like Provo. Um I don't know. When we've talked about this before, the real secret is that what you can do is very little. Uh, you just try to make things like beautiful in your very limited sphere.
Yeah,
It's kind of like like if you don't like, I don't know, a company, like if you don't like Amazon, well, the only thing you can really do is just not buy
yeah,
from, whatever. That's just an example, but it's like, or you complain on the internet, which is what we're doing.
yeah.
That seems to be
Something.
the winning strategy.
Complaining to many people.
Preaching to the choir.
Uh, how many people?
Three,
Four currently. Three,
three.
three whole people.
Nice.
So that's something. But yeah, I mean, also something we've talked about too is you just have to do things to help develop a culture in a place and hope that it gains traction and that people want to be a part of that and that people will have a sense of identity there. And so they'll be more invested in things like having nicer buildings. Because they'll think about it and be like, well, do I really want this here? You know? So,
Yeah, it
but
has to be.
that's like a long term thing that you kind of just, there's no like bets on it. It's just, you have to do things and hope it goes somewhere. And it's sort of the planting the tree that you might never sit in the shade of
Yeah,
sort of a deal.
and it's fairly if you think about it, like, you're like, this is something that I wish I could fix. It's more or less like insurmountable. It's very daunting. Not, but
Yeah.
that's not how you think about it. That's just a way to, you
It
stretch
fe
yourself out.
that's that's part of like the process of realizing the problem. And
Yeah,
every once in a while,
yeah,
it comes back and you like feel terrible. I've had days when I was at the farmers market where I'd be looking at this building and I'd actually get like pretty depressed just thinking about all this about it. But for the most part, I'm like, well, I can do what I can and I'm pretty content with that. But yeah, there's definitely like points where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy that that something like this got made. And there's many examples of this sort of a thing, just all over the place, but just going around Provo, there's lots of hideous things that I don't. It's just like nobody thought about. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, I have heard tale of places, cities in Europe where this is considered a really, really big deal, and people get really mad and have huge discussions in the public square about what building goes next to what building and preserving uh, various types of buildings and not putting other kinds in. And obviously, like, these are probably places that have long, rich cultures, but it's just the idea that, like, Timmy 2x4 down the street has to, like, care,
Yeah,
whether or not a building is pretty. Because most of us try to, I don't know, you don't even think about it. Like, I've only recently, it just kind of like, it's crept up on me in past years.
hmm
And you're driving down I-15 and it's like an endless, like, wall of billboards and like warehouses, and it's just like the ugliest thing ever. And like, I'd done that like 1,000 times, probably more, who knows, like throughout my childhood. Like, who knows
yeah,
how many times I've driven down I-15. And it's just in recent years, kind of thinking about this, that you're like, oh man, like, sure would be nice if it was pretty.
yeah. Well, I mean, in my opinion, I don't see any reason why you can't have all of the buildings be at least pretty decent looking. But
The tea, it's too good.
T T got yeah.
They were right.
And because I mean, with the same resources, you could have built an equally functional building as this town hall, city hall, and had it look nice. It didn't have to be this, but they decided on this. So it's like it's more of like just a matter of people's decisions and what people prioritize that can make those decisions rather than capability. We need to figure out a good way to do chat stuff. Or at least see what the heck's going on.
I just have to get up. If you hear my chair rattle, it's just because I get up and look at the chat every so often. But yeah, tea incident, almost died. What we really need is a tea cam, just so that everyone knows
I mean, we
when the tea is getting
could.
drunk at all times, and when the inevitable disaster happens. Whoa!
Man.
And see, that was the sound of me almost pouring too much into
Oh,
Philip's
jeez,
glass.
yeah, it's like to the brim.
Good luck.
If you move it too much. Hold on.
Jibble this tiny little table. Oh, oh, it's all happening. Okay. Didn't even mean for this to be shenanigans.
I know it's getting precarious.
No, the tea kettle ran out of water, and so I was tipping it really far, and the top fell off.
I mean, I did get it at Ross for like
It's
$5.
pretty sweet though.
I know
It's
it's
better
pretty.
than my method at home, which is, if I ever do this kind of tea, I have my, like, pot with like a ladle in it.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah. Oh, what were we saying?
I don't know.
I was just saying that ugly buildings, I don't think are the result of people not being able to, or either be able to make beautiful buildings, or to be able to like afford them.
No, there's
Because you don't have to have it, because there's some buildings that are relatively new around Provo that they're not, they're at the very least not like hideous. They actually kind of work. But I mean, there's actually a number that are actually pretty good. But yeah, you don't have to make it so stupid. I don't understand. That's why like I really would be curious to like know the thought process of the architect. Not that that will ever happen.
and even if we did, I'd feel bad. I'd be like, well, architect, I really, really, really dislike your building, but tell me about what you. I mean, maybe.
How do you go about that conversation?
I think you just.
You just have to be like, "Hey, what were you
I
thinking?"
think you hit them over the head from behind, put them in your car, you take them somewhere. I don't know, it's because sometimes when you see, when you go to a modern art museum, sometimes the little like explanation does save the day. This is a problem in modern art too, the lack of like communication, because some of them are like, they've like stapled some cheese to an upside down cross and like hung hooves around it.
Yeah.
And you see it and there's no like you got to like you know, you're not like speaking the same language, right? You got to like hope that some light bulb turns on, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
And so sometimes yeah, sometimes the explanation on the wall helps. Most of
But
the time
it's like in a way though, like at that point,
yeah,
it is the art actually functional as art at that point? Or could you have had it serve its purpose by just having the plaque?
yeah.
Which that could actually be an interesting art exhibit.
Somebody
It's
probably
just
has.
somebody has to have done that where they just have like a room full of like little plaques that describe a piece of art that isn't there,
Yeah.
but but it serves the exact same purpose. If nobody's done that, I'll do it. I'll do that, and then I'll become famous. Like what's his bucket? Was it Duchamp that did
Oh yeah, the
the
toilet.
toilet?
Yeah.
I could be the next that guy.
And since everybody's basically been trying to be Duchamp for the last like however long. It's like
Yeah, he pulled that stunt with the toilet, and that's defined art for the last like 100 years.
it was like a good joke once. It was an awesome joke.
Yeah,
And now
and then people forgot it was a joke.
yeah.
The people took it seriously. Ugh.
But yeah, it
And
would
now we have this building. We could blame him for this.
except for I doubt that usually when if you go in a modern art museum and there's stuff like that, it's really pretentious. I feel like my suspicion is that there was maybe pretentious stuff going on here, but it's more like just
Is this?
bad corporate art.
Yeah, it's like a meaningless hotel ornament.
Yeah. I mean,
Just
maybe again, if only we could, maybe someday we will. And again, I'll feel bad. I'll feel bad if we talk to the architect. Hopefully they
just
never.
don't be mean.
Yeah,
Just
that's true. In this
you
imaginary
don't even have to
scenario.
bring up, oh, well, I hated it. You just be like, I'm really curious why you made it look like a stack of paper. Was that on purpose? Did you mean to make it look like a stack of paper?
Dude,
Because
what
if you
if
did, I understand. But also,
what if the
it's kind of
architect
weird.
knew exactly what they were doing?
Hey, that
What if the architect was like, I'm gonna uh I'm gonna make this like strange, cold, bureaucratic building and they're not even gonna bat an eye. Like the one
seeing what they can get away with.
like the one guy, the one famous uh Swedish or whatever he is architect who designed the basically the CIA building for China, and it's like a sinister lair.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it looks like an evil villain
yeah.
lair, and you're like he just like got away with that.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, it's possible. The thoughts crossed my mind that it was some sort
He's
of like
actually a genius.
thing that I have an idea for something that would be horrific, and I'm gonna see if I can get them to actually build it.
He's the culmination of yeah, Duchamp there, the toilet.
Except it's almost it's not even that though. Similar, but
But he's the
more
culmination.
more malicious.
You're right,
I
because
mean, in a way that would I'd almost feel better about it if that was the case. Just because, like, well, at least there was like consideration. At least somebody like really thought about this.
yeah,
The
because
idea that it was like just a series of like thoughtless, just committee meetings that led to it is like horrifying to me.
I think
rather than some like malicious architect who's like, I'm gonna make just a nightmare building
I
and see if I
think
can get away with it.
my theory is that somebody actually thought long and hard about this and like designed it with quite a bit of effort, and they're just operating under like a terrible
They're like
fancy word paradigm, like they're
they're
operating under like a stupid like design philosophy, right?
yeah,
Like they're like you said, they're probably in Massachusetts or LA or who knows where in a big old architectural firm, and there's like a series of kind of base ideas and templates that they go off of, and they throw things together.
they have like their style
Yeah, and
and
these weird stupid decorations are somehow like in vogue.
I
I
guess.
guess. I don't know.
Well,
Or
I'm yeah, I can't remember. I don't know if I ever found out who designed this building because I've looked up other buildings around. Um,
we might have to. We might like have
we'd
to
have to
find this
do it,
person.
or at
And like
least
you said, just be
who.
nice.
Yeah, what was the architecture firm that designed it? Because
We
at the
could
very least, I'd be curious to see other work and see what's going on because you could learn a lot from just looking at other things that they've made. Maybe that their like thing is this weird like paper stack thing and they just do that on everything they make. And it's just an accident that it happened to be a bad fit for this particular building. I don't know. Or do
I
they put weird like wedge things on all their buildings or is that or did they do things like that
I don't know.
regularly? Like
I don't know when this little paper stack thing would be a good choice.
never. I mean, in a way it works.
Yeah, well,
Again, cuz
yeah, in like
it reflects the function of the building, which arguably makes sense.
yeah.
But I still don't think it does cuz actually the idea of that is more than just what does the building do? It's like what is the actual purpose of the building rather than just the function of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because theoretically, City Hall doesn't exist for the purpose of bureaucracy. It exists for the purpose of like maintaining the city
Yeah.
and keeping order and keeping things clean, keeping making sure that it's prosperous
Which
in
again,
theory, but it's
which is
that's what you
why,
want to convey, right? You want
yeah.
to convey like, oh, this is a place where we help things stay in order. This is a place where we want to make sure that it's a safe place for families. But the actual design of this building is almost the opposite of that. It's like it feels like I've said it before, a collapsing stack of paperwork. It's like the opposite of order and stability. It's like instability and chaos that's technically designed right, but
I
also
mean,
aesthetically it's
yeah, even then,
incorrect.
yeah, even then it's like only very technically, I don't know. It's like if
It
this was a
does.
series of abstract shapes that I had submitted to uh for the design assignment in animation 101 that we took, remember that? Where it was
Mm-hmm.
like just put some shapes on some paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, then like it'd be kind of okay in that sense. Be shapes and but shapes that aren't terrible. Oh man, but all sorts of things about just staring at it. Like the margins for the windows on the far right. Like the the heavy like
It's
how much
so
room there is around them.
it's weird.
Versus
Also, look, none of the windows like line up.
yeah,
That
that's
actually looking at the those ones on the right, it's like actually really irritating.
it's like some McMansion stuff going on there.
Like what? Like they're really narrow windows, and they're like, have you asked? I have not asked AI to design a city hall. It'd probably be better than this. But yeah, I don't understand.
It's like so again, I go back to classical architecture, especially because classical architecture is so prevalent for government buildings
And it
because like you were talking about, it conveys like order and strength
well,
and
they still utilize some columns you can
yeah,
see right here,
yeah,
but they're also black
they're
and
black and
that stupid color that's like it's like an ominous color when it's on
yeah,
a building.
they're black and they're scrawny, right? They're just
They're
like
like they're like pencil leads
yeah,
holding up the collapsing paper.
yeah, yeah, they're skinny, so they don't like
Mm.
convey any sort of like strength or anything. They
It feels precarious.
yeah. And if anything, it just feels industrial, like
Yeah.
rebar holding up like a piece of concrete. I don't know. What was I lost my train
Well,
of
it's
thought.
like on this side it looks like a hospital.
Oh yeah, that's it. 100%. Um oh, what was I thinking? Okay. Oh yeah. Classical architecture, and there are a lot of rules in classical architecture, and they're really just there because um like the various proportions of everything is worked out really precisely, and it's really just because it's pleasing. Um, and but it's when you get to something like this, you're like, well, did you just throw absolutely everything out?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, not absolutely everything, like we said. There's like some design stuff that's like this isn't like some like weird like Tim Burton building, but
Yeah. It's just it's just a very inconsiderate building.
yeah.
I what they should have done is just built like a ziggurat or something. Just like a big old pyramid. That'd be cool. It'd be it'd be really cool actually. It's like a man-made mountain.
And if you when you have to renew your driver's license, you have to like go up
You have to go up like a really long flight of
to
stairs.
the great like holy of holies of the high priest of bureaucracy.
Yeah.
I mean, see, that'd be awesome.
Y-
By awesome, I mean, you know,
Mhm.
if you don't get killed and thrown down the steps.
Yeah. Oh man. I
So, wait, go back to that previous view. That's almost like this south facing walls like almost even they're not even like the windows don't even like match, but it's almost just the most in the most like plain and boring way, the best wall.
Yeah. No, I was saying on the front side there's another wall kind of like that. It's like that's the nicest looking part of the building.
Which is
Like
funny
if you're standing like right there, you're like, "Oh, this building's okay, I guess." But it's boring.
because there's just some order. Yeah, if there's a building completely like that, you just be like, "Oh, that's a boring building."
Yeah. And that's the best part of this building is the boring part, you know? Like if you're on the south side and the house is across the street or like the bed and breakfast or
Yeah,
whatever's right there, I can't remember.
I mean, just some
You'd be like,
houses.
"Oh, it's just boring."
Yeah.
You don't really think about it. But when you're in the park, you're just you see this. And it's just it feels weird like the bottom part is like the that brick. It like feels lazy. Like they're like, "Oh, we couldn't think of anything weird to do down there, so it's just like the boring part, but just on the bottom. So at eye level, it's boring."
Okay, new theory that just occurred to me right now. So everything, all of like the terrible cheap apartment complexes that have gone up
Yeah.
like as fast as people can build them out of the cheapest material they can find. I have that on good authority. Um, they all kind of look like it's like the aesthetic is like shipping container.
Kinda.
Yeah, so look, it's a shipping container. Look,
Oh my gosh, it is.
what if the whole aesthetic,
Giant shipping
what if the
container.
whole aesthetic of our day and age is just shipping container? Because people were like, "Hey, I made a tiny house out of a shipping container," and everyone's like, well, "That's pretty cool."
How about we make
How
a
about we
whole building? But we don't have a giant shipping container, so we'll just make it kind of look like one.
Yeah, everything's just a shipping container.
That's an interesting theory, actually.
Because
I could see that.
with the apartment buildings, it's straight up like true with some of them. They just look like shipping containers stacked. Uh,
Mm,
and the with the apartment buildings with the weird like mishmash of, you know, where they're like this wall's stucco, this wall's like corrugated metal,
ugh,
but it adds to the shipping containerness of everything.
ugh.
Now I like that because I like those tiny homes. I also want to live in like a tiny home shipping container. Kinda. They always look fun. The tiny homes do. This building, they needed to find an actual gigantic shipping container.
That would be. They just make, yeah,
Wait,
giant, like weirdly proportioned shipping containers.
I'm on a roll and I'm out
Yeah.
of tea. But look, the side with the stupid pattern of the falling paper side. What if that's just an abstraction of like corrugated metal?
Could
Bum
be.
bum bum.
It
It's-
kind of is.
I mean, it that's the problem with it though, being like meaningless like it is. It kind of could be a lot of things. It's like whatever you can project on it. And nothing you can
And
project on it
there's
is
no good thing you can
yeah,
think of.
you're not like Ah, yes. The sweeping rains, I guess, that keep our desert alive. You know, like
What?
like
What? Yeah. What does it represent?
I don't think it represents anything. That's part of it. That's
That's
what makes it the like a meaningless decoration.
But the thing is your brain wants to assign it. So if
Yeah.
if you're not actually making it into something, people's brains are just gonna be like, oh, this is what this is to me. And so I just think the paper, or you think shipping container,
Yeah, corrugated metal. I'm
and so that's what you get. People will be like, oh, it's supposed to be like a shipping container, and
like the entire architectural aesthetic of our time is just shipping container.
could be.
I mean, can I write a book now?
You can try.
I think the the tea has finally hit. I'm enlightened.
You're
Um,
enlightened. I need to. It's my turn.
do we even? I was gonna say, do we even have an audience anymore? I'll watch. I don't have anything to do while you're taking a break. I'm just gonna stare and see. We do.
So few people. They're just not chatting as crazy.
That's okay. As long as they're a witness to my brilliance. I don't know. It's an interesting. I'm Philip's out of there, so I'm just gonna talk. It's an interesting. Aha, a person. I have to walk across the room.
I'm gonna take my keys with me just in case.
In case you lock yourself in the bathroom. Oh, or in case I lock you out, and I'm like, Philip's studio is mine. At last. At last, I get to do the arduous process of printmaking. Um, it is funny. If we were in person, I would be almost aghast to have a conversation like this. It's much easier into the mic. Aghast because I'm self-conscious about being clumsy with my words. And also, I don't always like just to have deep hot tub time without this. This is pretty groovy. In like Philip, there's just like one light and it's kind of like moody in here. Anyway, uh, what was I thinking? Oh yes, yeah. The question of beauty is kind of an interesting one because obviously, um, not just in our day and age, but for the last like hundreds of years, it's uh been attacked from like 1,000 angles. Cause right, cause it's like, well, who's to say someone's concept of beauty is better than someone else's? Uh, and some stuff is like objectively beautiful, right? And this, I'm just coming at this from the idea of being like, well, if you like want to live like in a beautiful place, like if you want to make your community and your house and everything else like lovely, um, and some stuff nobody argues about. Like if you have a really nice garden, almost nobody in the whole universe uh complains about that. It's another art forms, especially the art forms that are the most artsy fartsy. Where if you try and draw, or if something is uh I guess beauty's not always the main thing or the desirable thing for some people. And sometimes it's not. But anyway, there's just a stream of consciousness. Now that I'm like sitting here alone in this room, late night KC radio, boiling a little more water because I'm not done with this particular batch of tea quite yet. Yeah, so when you get really not even like super nice, it's not even that expensive, but when you get real tea, most of which for this purpose is made in China, essentially what you do is you pour water and you only steep it for like a few seconds and then you pour it out and you drink it and you repeat that process a gajillion times and you can more or less like do it to your heart's content until you're sick of it because with the real again it's not even like super expensive or uber high quality or anything. I mean it is high quality. But that's the I guess the Chinese method. So yeah, you only steep it for a few seconds. Pour it out and you do that a lot. Mm. Yeah, beauty. And it's just not something that's like on anybody's radar. Like you just have to imagine if I were to talk to I mean, you never had any conversation, anything like this with like my immediate family, right? Their eyes would just like glaze over, which is the case for most people. Like you might suggest that this building is ugly, and they might be like, "Oh yeah, it is." Kind of weird, isn't it? Um, but again, maybe I'm being snobbish. Maybe people do think about this more than I think they do. It's hard. You don't want to be like inconsiderate and be like, "Well, I'm the smartest person with the best taste." Whoa. Sorry, no. Uh, and then Phil just maybe turned on the sink in the bathroom, which is next door, and it like made the whole like wall rattle with the pipes. But yeah, sort of without Philip to bounce my thoughts off of, sort of losing momentum. But there's oh, Amy's here to save me with a thing I have to walk over and see it. Yeah, it's not. I mean, like I was saying earlier, it's only recently, and it almost kind of creeped up on me. Uh, like I was talking about I-15 driving down it 1 million times throughout my life, never even batting an eye or thinking about the idea that it might not be um like who cares if it's pretty? Like this in fact it's almost like but it's just like you're just bombarded with billboards and ads and it suddenly one day it just seemed all very ugly. Um
All the Ken Garf ads that
Oh,
You see it and you're confused.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They're their own like weird art pieces. Cause
They're the only good billboards.
because wait, did I turn this back on?
I don't know.
I meant to, because I want more tea. Um, yeah, because there's definitely like ad campaigns that are awkward and like don't quite hit the mark. But the Ken Garf ad campaign, which is awkward and doesn't quite hit the mark, has been going on for like a decade.
And it's insane. The stupid heart's in the way. I can't.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. I don't. I'm. Yeah, the long history of I'm not an aggressive conversationer. Somebody talks over
Me neither.
somebody talks over me, I just let them. Unless I've stolen one of Madeline's jokes and I really need to tell it. Um but yeah, I remember we went to visit Madeline's family in they live in I guess it's they live in Virginia. It's like right below Washington D.C.
Yeah.
It's better to say they live in Washington D.C., but they live in Virginia. And so what's interesting is all of the freeways all around there, no billboards at all.
Yeah, some places there's like none.
Yeah, and
Mm,
and that's in like the thick of the city. And that's not to say that it's very pretty. It's like they just have really high concrete walls. It's kind of pretty because the foliage is super lush and it's like spilling over.
mm-hmm.
Oh, because all of their freeways are like in kind of like a man-made ravine of concrete walls to
Mm-hmm.
try and like control the sound or who knows what. But like foliage is kind of like spilling over everywhere. So that's kind of pretty on accident. I mean, freeways aren't like ever going to be really pretty. But
No.
yeah, we've driven into the countryside of Virginia a couple times, which is super duper pretty.
Yeah.
And there was not a single billboard anywhere. I don't know. It again, it
Utah's got a lot.
yeah, Utah has a lot, and when you're used to it, you don't even think about it. But when you start to think about it,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like a little like capitalisty dystopian like
Mm-hmm.
landscape, like bombarded by like ads everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I-15's got so many.
Yeah, and when we were talking with that marketing guy forever ago about game stuff
Yeah.
and talking about the different stuff, he was saying how uh billboards are like a super effective marketing tool in Utah. I don't know if it's he said for Utah like specially, but I don't know why. He didn't elaborate on that, but
I could see that.
yeah, he said they were very very effective.
They use them a lot. I, yeah. I wonder.
Or you go so once upon a time Madeline and I drove across we drove from Florida to Arizona and up to Utah just to we were delivering my sister's car
Mm-hmm.
because my sister moved and we went down. We drove her car, and there's stretches of there's just I think it was like Texas or New Mexico. Who knows? There were like stretches where there were only lawyer billboards, and like it would be like the same three lawyers for like 300 miles. And so it would just be like one after the other, constant. And it was just like lawyer billboard, lawyer billboard, lawyer billboard. It was like lawyer one, lawyer two, lawyer three, lawyer one, lawyer two, lawyer three. And it was so weird. But I'm sure that it's effective for them. It was just super weird. Or you go to Vegas and there's just like, it's like lawyer billboards and like stripper billboards,
Yeah,
booba boards.
yeah. I mean, it makes sense that there's a lot of billboards on I-15. I get it, but they are not. They're generally like, yeah, not
Yeah.
pleasing to the eyes. A
Yeah.
lot of people are traveling up and down I-15 every day.
Yeah, and there are funny billboards and billboards that are like clever, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's almost sometimes it's almost fun if you're like on a little trip to Cache Valley or Layton or something, you kind of
It's something to look at,
almost like
but
subconsciously critiquing billboards and there's like the funny good ones
mm-hmm. Yeah.
and stupid ones. So I don't know. I didn't mean to go down the billboard thing, but it's just it's a kind of like it's like an example of an ugly thing in our culture. An
Just
ugly
ads.
Yeah, ads, really ads are.
Well,
I'm
you
getting
can
like
make them cool.
yeah, you can. Like I
It's
said,
like
there's
at the MOA, they had the French like lithograph poster exhibit. Those were pretty much all ads for just shows and stuff, and they're really cool.
yeah.
Those were awesome. The Gab, the Gab watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um and the suicide ones are better than the weird ones that have been around forever where it's like some celebrity and they're like
Oh,
integrity, pass it on, and it has like a picture of Dolly Parton or something and you're like what on earth is going on?
yeah.
Sometimes they make sense, but they're even then they're kind of stupid.
Yeah.
Because I just bring that up because I feel like they're trying to be like thoughtful billboards, but they're just
Hmm.
kind of weird. Um, oh, but what was I thinking about just a second ago? Oh, now we're just going down whatever, but this is half the fun, I guess. But now that I'm oh, hold on. Hold on.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I remember I remember I don't know how old I was. Um a late teen, maybe a little earlier. I remember when suddenly one day the plastic surgery billboards just appeared in Salt Lake, and they've been like kind of a staple ever since. But it was like,
You're like, what the?
yeah, specifically, I was on I think I was, visiting some family or something, and I was just like, oh, well, there seem to be all these plastic surgery billboards all of a sudden.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I've noticed those.
Yeah,
They're kind of weird.
they've been a staple for a long time. In fact, I feel like they've kind of stopped a little. They've lessened. There was a time when there was a lot of plastic surgery billboards. Um,
Yeah, there's a few that I always notice when I go up to Salt Lake. Ooh.
oh, yeah. And I'm not even hamming it up anymore. Well, not that I was ever hamming it up, but yeah, whenever I move, it's like dad groans. So Here's kind of my related thought as now that I'm a grouchy old dad. Uh, we were watching, we've watched a lot of Shaun the Sheep, and they've got all their seasons. Just you can just watch whatever you want on YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
and you get the little kids ads, which I hadn't seen a lot of.
Yeah.
And man, they're insane. Like the now that I'm an adult, like the voices, they're all the same. They're like, dude, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Like that's the like
Yeah.
it's like insane how they talk.
Yeah.
Like most drug and the most blah, blah. I'm trying to do my best like impression of the you know what it is, but when you now that I'm an adult and I haven't like seen those for a while and I've seen them again, they're
Like,
like
oh, geez.
they're like frantic and so strange because you're
They're
like who
they're
decided
the
like
they're the original like YouTuber cadence
yeah.
of talk.
Yeah, because you're like, well, who decide? I guess somebody knows, somebody who does this knows that you sell dinosaur and car toys to little boys, and you have to have your voice on the commercial sound like he's insane and excited. Blah, blah, blah.
They just haven't changed it since the 90s.
It really,
They
I
they
don't think
they
it's too
found the
different.
they found the perfect formula for getting uh kids hyped about something,
Yeah, it really it does.
and
It
then
feels about the
they're
same.
like, we've perfected this.
Yeah, they're like rocket racers. They're fast. They're loud. They crash 10 times. Like they when you step back and listen to them, they're like a parody of themselves. I don't know. They're
it's not it's not a natural way of speaking at
oh,
all.
it's insane. I've noticed the ones that are targeting little girls are they're varied.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're all kind of the same, but they like the voice varies. But the ones for little boys,
It has to be exciting.
it has to be exciting. It's all like the same guy. Maybe it is the same guy
Just
since the
makes
'90s.
he's just making
They're
bank.
like, your voice is so perfect, sir. You're like insane, excited voice.
Turns out he's like 70.
Yeah. It's like the guy who does like the voices for the official like the big Dota tournaments. He's like 100 years old. He's like this little old man, but he has the deep booming voice.
Yeah. Like an auctioneer. Kind of.
Yeah. It is super rapid. I'm trying not to do dad grunts as I stood up to look at the
Stood up too fast.
s-
Pass out.
Well, I don't know. I mean, we could just it's pleasant just to chat, but I think we're
I don't know how much we've done a pretty good roasting.
yeah, a hit piece that will appear in the Times.
In the Daily Herald.
Yeah,
New scathing rebuke of the City Hall and how ugly it is. So ugly.
yeah.
What do you think?
The only problem is this tea is not heated up yet, and I want a teeny bit more.
It takes a while.
I know. Well, I could have cranked up the heat, but I kind of just let it warm
You,
up.
you went halfway.
Yeah. but I'm out of.
Out of.
Out of thoughts. I mean, you should really just say, "Hey, that's good." Thankfully, Amy, you are keeping this ship afloat. Okay, no dead. Here we go. Getting up.
You do
Oh, right.
an ad read, a sponsorship, endorsement.
Which is funny because I thought up a funny fake one the other day, and now in this state, I can't remember it at all. But yeah, I thought of like a funny little ad spiel.
Mm,
Yeah,
this
like do your hands ever get dried up by all the laundry? It's one of those like old ads.
you did. Are you sick of losing fingers in the washing machine?
You need to put your grandma's ghost to rest.
Did you spill her ashes and now she's haunting you, telling you to clean up the mess?
Dude,
This is call the Ghostbusters.
Pioneer Ghost style.
Yeah.
My friends and I'd always talk about how Pioneer Ghosts would be the least scary kind of ghosts. Because they would just be like, they'd be like, do the dishes.
Yeah.
Like, listen to your father.
Yeah.
My goodness. Mm. Oh my gosh, it's Jason.
Jason's just
Swooping
now
in.
showing up.
He's been listening this whole time.
Or was he?
Somebody,
I can't
I
tell.
think somebody duck out. Who ducked out? Who would dare to leave us?
I have no idea what's going on.
Tea's ready though. Huh.
I don't know what like these like emojis.
I don't know.
Why can I do them?
Cause you're playing too.
I'm watching from the like studio view. I don't, it's such a weird feature. I don't understand. Like what's the functional
Well, we could
difference?
go over everything again for Jason. I think we should do that. Just absolutely.
Yeah, what Jason's supposed to be getting married. What's he doing here?
Oh yeah. Whoop. Oh yeah. We don't want another tea accident.
Um Provo City Hall is ugly, the end. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
It looks like a pile of paper or shipping containers, depending on how you want to look at it.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I had a video game, and one of the levels was supposed to be paper, and the texture on that building is the exact same pattern as was on the walls of this video game level, which was supposed to be paper, like the paper level. That's a new thing. That's a new thought just for Jason. Ow, the tea. Too hot.
looks like a video game. We're making roasting buildings a thing.
I like
I want it to be a thing. We need more people being upset about ugly buildings.
I mean, I guess that's the solution
If
or or a
if
possible.
everybody is angry about it, people will be scared to make ugly buildings.
I like its little hat, the building's little hat.
The thing that like covers up the AC unit.
Yeah, it's like the if it's a oh my gosh, what were we just
What
saying?
does it look like from other angles? Does it look like from
It's just like the building's like little beanie. It's a little like yarmulke.
just like a fence on the top?
Yeah. What are these
Well,
guys saying?
Amy's saying that we successfully pissed her off about the building. I ugh. There's many more we could do.
Yeah.
Next episode will be at some point. I don't know. I kind of want to do something else for the next,
Yeah, we can.
very next one
Yeah, we'll break it up. Probably have another book club, you know.
or something.
Yeah, I don't know what exactly.
We haven't thought of that far ahead.
Yeah, because we can talk about we can talk what were we saying? We can talk technically about like specific things like art forms like printmaking. That'd be kind of neat.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's more like almost I don't know, it'd be almost more like an interview where I say, "Philip, how on earth does this work?" It'd be kind of fun though. Like something we're familiar with, we can talk about or we could do something where we
Well, then Jason's asking about the windows. What do we think about the windows? We don't like the windows.
the answer is we don't really like much. Uh, but again, we very kind of slowly articulated that.
Here,
Now,
I don't like these windows. One, because they're like annoyingly inconsistent sizes and they're very narrow, which is uncomfortable. And also, they're set in like 2-3 feet into the building. So it's like you're looking at it like an arrow slit from a castle or something, which is weird. And then all the like the big windows are on the back, which is weird. And it looks like a hospital.
it's so the people, you know, sitting at their desks have a nice view of nothing really, but they have like a nice view of like some
You have a nice
flagpoles,
view of
a
the
parking lot.
part of the building if you're looking south, and then if you're looking east, you can see the new skin building.
Like
Pretty much.
the ugly
The weird,
buildings, the ugly buildings get to like wave hi at each other.
yeah. Yeah, in the morning you can get kind of a good view in there, I guess. Though I don't know what's on this backside on the inside actually. I think those are just like hallways actually. I'm trying to remember because I've been inside for the open house.
Now that we've done this, next time you go inside, they're gonna get you.
Yeah.
They're gonna suppress you, man.
Yeah, new skin building's pretty awful.
Yeah, new skins.
It, I still don't think it's as bad as this building.
It's not as bad, although its location is like sinister. How it's like looming over both cool old school looking temple and like the cool storefronts of
Yeah,
it like got like that.
it's like right in the middle of cool the few like really cool stuff.
Yeah, its location is like it's too good.
Yeah.
And then yeah, it's just like this it's I mean cuz it's just like the poster child for like a corporate building.
Yeah.
It's just like, hi, I'm a corporate building. Hi. And like the
With a weird egg shaped like
oh
airfoil on top.
yeah. What did we we're pretty sure that's a
It's
swimming
just
pool, right?
no
or
idea.
like a big slingshot that you shoot alien. I don't know.
I have no
I'm just
idea
kidding.
what
It's
that
not a
is.
swimming pool. It'd be cool if it was a swimming pool.
I don't understand new skin.
But yeah, Provo City has maintained the the facades on the buildings, and on Center Street. And that's
Hmm.
cool. It's cool they do that. But yeah, having new skin like smack dab right there, just like towering over both the temple, towering over everything.
I know.
It's like weird. We could call it weirdly symbolic.
Yeah, it's like poetry.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know. There's too much to like go over again for Jason,
Yeah.
but
Jason, you can probably
basically,
listen to
we
this
gave you
afterwards.
the gist of it is it's ugly
Yeah.
and we don't like the windows or much else. We don't like the stupid water feature in the front.
Although Jason,
It's not even a monument to vanity because it doesn't even look good. It's it's a monument to committees.
yeah, like it's more like yeah, the new skin building's more of like a monument to vanity. This is yeah, this is like a monument to like confused architecture. I don't know.
It's a monument to we had a we had a meeting.
It's a monument to we like
We
called a an architectural firm in San Diego. I don't know. And they gave us five options. Again, I think there's probably more thought put into it, but it is like weird that
Mhm.
that would be the case. What was I thinking though? Yeah, Jason, next time you have just a couple hours that you want to listen to your friends,
I think it's only like an hour.
you can listen to this. It'll be up. And you can know all of the things we thought.
Actually, I don't know how long
I'm gonna ASMR this tea a little bit here.
has been. I don't know.
As it turns out, we stopped recording like 2 hours ago. Hey, that's a way to.
I don't know if that makes it any more visible. That was an accident. I feel like it makes it harder to. Jason, you'll be able to. It should still be up.
Oh yeah, capitalism versus religion. Obviously, the new skin building is winning. That's
uh,
at least it's taller than its foes or its friends. I mean, speaking of beauty, an interesting thing is again, you go back to Europe. Europe's not the only place that is has like a culture that's concerned with preserving beauty. There's lots of places around the world, but uh, I at least know that if you were to be in England, especially, but in England, France, uh, big public gardens, big nice public gardens are way common. Whereas, oh man, they're kind of hard to find here. So I appreciate this. What is, oh my gosh, what is the temple in the middle of Provo even called?
it's just a city center
City
temple.
Center, that's right.
Yep.
Yeah, actually has it's not very big, but a pretty
It's
little
got
garden area.
yeah, the garden around it's nice.
Yeah, I've so that's something I appreciate because there's very very few like well kept public gardens.
Yeah,
Um,
Utah. I don't even know if I can think of any others.
no, there's like you can pay a small fortune, which is kind of funny, and there's one at U of U. They have like their like desert garden. I've never been there because the ticket's like $35 to walk through a garden.
What?
And then there's a conservation garden in West Jordan that is actually fairly lovely. It's pretty great.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's something that's just like a little personal thing of interest because I like it's just interesting. There's not big public gardens, so I like the city center temple as that small as it is. Um, but yeah, when you're there, definitely if you turn to one side, the new skin building's just like looming over you.
Yeah.
Again, it's not like I don't know, it's not a huge deal. You're just there and you're enjoying some garden and you're like, "Oh, there's a big building." Not like a giant deal,
Yeah.
but
Well, on that side, it's not too bad.
no.
And especially when you're in, I don't know, I'd still prefer it's not there.
Oh, yeah, I mean, for sure.
At least it's mostly just straight up glass.
Yeah, that's
That's one of the things that makes it less offensive than the city hall. Is there's parts of it where you just see through the building through the other side. So you can almost sort of pretend it's not there. Hmm.
oh yeah, and the Korean tourists.
Yeah, you got they show up for some kind of conference or something to to get on the leaderboard for new skin salesmanship
Yeah, I mean, who know? I don't know
to
anything.
become the top seller of new skin lotion.
I mean, that's see, we've done our part now. Amy's gonna carry the banner from here on out.
You need to get upset about them. Ugly buildings. I don't even know what the for next time we roast a building. I don't even know. There's so many that I'd want to do.
We almost, I mean, we've practiced already uh on the new courthouse.
Yeah,
So
we
we could
could.
do that one since we're
Yeah,
practiced. Although that can be summed
that's
up in why does it look like it should be in Mordor?
yeah. Why does it look evil?
Why does it have Sauron spikes on like the top?
The yeah, and the sculpture in the front, which I learned who the artist is for that, and it made it even more confusing that they chose it. But I'll save that for later.
Oh, what? That sounds juicy.
That's all. I'll save it for when we talk about that.
Oh man.
The buildings don't have to be in Provo, but it's nice that because I like to. It's just like what I see around that we both can. There's so much where it's like you're interacting with it, you know,
Yeah, and
just
part of
being around the building, and you're like, oh, I like have a tangible experience with this.
what we've talked about kind of in private conversation, but like a theme is the idea of like living in a place and trying to, you know, I don't know,
Be
wishing it
be
wish
concerned about it.
yeah, like saying, well, what if I say Provo is my home and not have the attitude that I'm going to like move constantly? Um,
Even if you do move, like living here in the moment to be like, this is where I am. I'm going to care about it.
and like, yeah, what in what ways? In what?
Jason's becoming genuinely interested in buildings. It's awakening something in him. Um yeah, so that's why we're doing stuff in Provo, but I guess technically it doesn't have to be.
I mean, and one of the things we're talked about is like you could take the Provo's the Provo off city office or like any of these buildings and plop them in like
Anywhere and
anywhere.
it wouldn't matter because they're not designed with any place in mind.
Yeah, like if the Provo, I keep calling it the city center, but the Provo office, city office, like if that was just sitting in Cincinnati and you walked by, you wouldn't like bat an eye. You'd be like, oh, yes, a modern building.
They'd be like, "Oh, that's a nice art museum."
Oh, yeah.
Like what? You're like, you're like,
Honestly,
what is it? I mean, we kind of started with that. Is like, what even is this building? It could be a theater. It could be a museum. It could be a city hall. It could be a
it
hotel.
couldn't really be a city hall.
Well, guess what? That's what it
Yeah,
is.
it,
But it could be apartment. It could be a office building. Who knows? It could be any building.
yeah, it's
But
but a product of like a mass culture,
it's kind of, yeah, I think
which isn't.
if if you can't tell what a building is by looking at it, it's not a good sign. That's my opinion.
But yeah, you could, yeah, plop this anywhere, and yeah, I a lot of what we're talking about, it's like, yeah, who knows what the solution is? Like, I don't know how you get like Provo to embrace a certain, like, who knows to where that would happen, where you're like somebody in some office is like, hey, let's embrace this specific style that's lovely. I mean, who I don't.
I
I'm like
have
at a
no
loss
idea.
for how that could even come about, but
Eh, it's kind of one of those things where almost like you kind of just have to accept the fact that you can't really do anything directly. I mean, architecture is something where it's so complicated how it even happens that you kind of it just it's too difficult to like try and like shift things around. It just takes time, I think. Though the trends of things is it's getting stupider for
yeah.
buildings. So, but who knows? Maybe it'll just get to a point where they're like, "Oh, well, our next city hall is just literally going to be a cube." Be like, well, at that point, it's actually probably better if it was just like a featureless cube. That would be an improvement. That would be it'd at least be like imposing, and it would feel stable.
And they could do cool things with the way you go in and out of it.
I guess.
You know, you like enter from like a side, so you never have to see the door, so it just looks like a cube.
Yeah, it only has secret entrances.
I can see lots of potential in the cube.
Look.
Man, I gotta read all of this stuff. Oh,
Jason
the
has
chat is
said a lot of
blowing up.
13. There's a
Yeah, putting down roots emotionally is the
it's kind of the name of the game.
yeah, kind of like the kind of the heart of what we're getting at. And part of the conversation, how weird it is to do in Provo because of the strange
It's
the
I I think it's a prevalent attitude in most places in the US, but Provo I think it's particularly pronounced. Because it's almost like a double college town.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who either go to BYU or UVU.
And maybe if I lived in like an established, well, I do actually live in an established suburban in Provo, but it's pretty like it's still pretty like these little houses have a lot of like young families that are like there's still our ward or everyone's just moving in and out. But maybe it would feel different if you were like some old person who's lived in Provo, live up on some house. I don't know. But yeah, Cache Valley doesn't never felt this way to me as a college town.
Mm-hmm.
Cache Valley feels much more homey.
Yeah, I don't know. I
But that
don't.
might again, maybe if I was like born and raised in some like suburb of Provo, I wouldn't feel this way. But since I went to college here, it does feel like everyone's just like, well, as soon as I leave Provo,
I mean, it feels that way from people I've talked to that grew up in Provo, where it feels like they have the same attitude of
yeah.
I'm gonna go somewhere else.
Well, as soon as you said that to me in a conversation, however many weeks ago, I was like, oh my gosh.
Because I've had a few coworkers at Hrushka's that are from Provo. They've kind of had that attitude.
Wait, go to the church in the streets of Provo. It is interesting.
In the tree streets?
In
The tree streets? What are the tree streets?
yeah,
I don't know what that means.
the tree streets, like the
Streets with the trees?
University Center Street, like when it goes farther toward the mountain and has all the pretty trees by where I live. Yeah, Logan, there's still like a little part of my heart in Cache Valley, but that's just nostalgia, I think.
Yeah. Well, that's how I feel about my hometown. Is like, there's that feeling of, oh, I'd love to live there again, but then I think about it, I'm like I don't have any kind of
Yeah,
real connection there anymore.
the neighborhood across from the creamery. What does the church look like there? Wait. Okay.
What?
The church? 'Cause yeah, the
I
neighborhood.
have not been over in that part of Provo in a long time.
Oh, right. I think I know what you're talking about. Are you neighborhood across from the
I know, I know that area.
Yeah, I'm like
I'm trying
going.
to. I can't think of the exactly the building.
I know. I neighborhood across from the creamery.
I don't know if I've like really gone back up in there.
I've driven through there quite a few times back when I did eBay stuff. I'm just trying to think which. Yeah, I don't know. No, we should like in person pull that up on a map. The church. I'm trying to think of. Okay,
Yeah, what? I don't know.
I'm curious. I mean, I also have a map on my internet device. I can start to, but it's not Google Map. I can't look at the church when I find it. But I like more or less know what you're talking about. Except for I'm lost. I'm going the wrong direction. Okay, this way. Okay, BYU Creamery. Yeah, yeah, okay. See, there it is. I can't like do anything about it. Wait, are there pictures? Anyway,
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because I think
I
I've.
was just talking about the culture of the neighborhood in that area,
Oh,
not the building
not
itself.
the building. Because I think I could just pulled up the building. It is one of like the old-fashioned ones, which I kind of like. But yeah, yeah, one of those older neighborhoods be interesting. The people might not feel quite the same way, but there does seem to be this like strange attitude. I don't know. But yeah, no, that neighborhood definitely would have like people who have put down roots. Who might be like, "What are you guys talking about?" But I doubt it. But yeah, where I live, we actually after I talked to you about this idea, Philip, we went and just visited a neighbor for a second, and I brought it up, and they were also a young family. Same thing. They were like, "Oh yeah, like we as soon as we leave, like we're out of here."
Thing.
Yeah, I guess I would describe how I should describe my neighborhood. They're like 100-year-old starter homes. Cause
Kinda, yeah.
yeah, cause everyone's like a young family who does not plan on staying there. Anyway, maybe we should be done because at some point I gotta go home.
At some point, I need to go to sleep. Hmm. Well, I don't have anything else to say about the building right now.
No. Oh yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Well,
It was fun. Bye bye.
bye. Thanks.
We'll in what 2 weeks?
Yeah.
We'll do something. If we can't think of anything, we'll roast the new courthouse, I guess. But
I
we'll try and do something else.
the interaction's really fun. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Eliza. Thanks, Amy.
Thanks for the jaunt. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Piper. I think Piper was
I don't know.
the third party who escaped.
Who knows?
Who
I
knows?
don't know who's left. Anyway.
Okay.